Hey, it's Mark Lanier with your video thought for the day. You know, I'm standing in front of a painting which might be called by some a still life painting. Well, I guess, I don't know. It's kind of like, yeah, I think you could call it that. Regardless, I'm sure you've heard of a still life painting, and that's appropriate today because today is still life. In terms of our video thought for the day theme, you see, it started on Monday, where I got to hold our little new grandbaby, Zoe. Zoe is 4.5 weeks old at this point, and her name, Zoe, is the Greek word for life. And it's used over and over in the New Testament, especially in the Gospel of John. It's kind of one of the themes of the Gospel of John. And so I thought, well, in addition to holding her for that first video thought for the day, which, by the way, even if you've seen, you should go back and look at again and comment on how adorable she is. I thought it would appropriate to spend this week talking about life. Now, here's, and from the biblical perspective of the Gospel of John, now here is something that I find interesting. For a lot of people, life is humdrum. It's the daily get up in the morning, eat when appropriate, go to work, go to school, do your chores, eat dinner, watch some TV, answer some emails, go to sleep. And that's it. It's like a rat on a wheel, on a treadmill, you know, where you're just running. And you get caught up in that rat race. And life loses its luster. It loses that bright shininess that gives you a gleam in your eye and a jump in your step. And Jesus talks about that because there's a story in John chapter 4 where Jesus interrupts a woman who's having that humdrum existence. See, Jesus and his disciples have been in Jerusalem and they're headed north, and they go through an area called Samaria. And the Samaritans, as you may know, were kind of a half race in a way to the Jews. And devout Jews didn't have much to do with Samaritans. They were almost untouchable in some ways and considered rather repugnant. And Jesus sends his followers in to get some lunch, to get some Chick-fil-A or something. It's noon, and Jesus sits down by a well when a Samaritan woman comes up to draw water for her animals. And Jesus says, man, could you draw me some water? I'd like a drink. And this woman in her humdrum day just looks at Jesus and says, you're a Jew. What are you doing talking to me? What do you have to do with me? I'm a Samaritan. Jesus says, I know who you are. And Jesus says, if you really knew who I was, though, you wouldn't just be having this dialogue with me. You would ask me for living water, and I'd give you living water so you'd never thirst again, and it would dwell up within you to eternal life. And Jesus is speaking spiritually here to her. But the thrust of what he's saying is something that we can appreciate, especially when we understand Zoe as the vibrancy of life, that vital force that takes you from just being into a true living creature. And Jesus says, if you ask God, God can take a still life and make it a vibrant reality. Something that puts the gleam back in your eye, puts the jump back in your step. Something that says to you, and it's eternal. It's not for a day. It's not for a week. It's not for a month. It's not for a year. You embrace God and you let God infuse your life with meaning and purpose and reason and drive. And you'll never be the same. And that's the promise of life in God. This is your video thought for the day.